This is the Big Small Business Show, and this is our leadership segment. Today in studio with me is somebody I met many, many years ago. I had a radio show on Radio 2000, and so did he. He was a legend and still is a legend. His name is Bryan. He, in fact, had that show for 18 years. He's an author. He has built a huge business and sold it. And today he is, I love his title, he's the Merchant of Hope, the CEO of Cycan. Welcome.
Alon, what an introduction. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah. And it's so nice to have you here. I mean, who would have thought all those years ago from my perspective that we'd be having a conversation so many years later, and who would have thought I would have got grey?
And I would have got bald.
What had happened?
I'll show you a picture sometime of me as a teenager. I had lots of hair.
Well, the alternative is not so good.
No, it's not at all. No, definitely not.
So we're talking about leadership today, and the subject that you've chosen is the imperative of a new order of leadership.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
It's on many levels. I think firstly, let's just pause and reflect on the world where it is today. We've never seen change so prolifically. It's referred to as the exponential world. It's not coming, it's here. Things are just shifting and changing at rates that I don't think the majority of people have actually realized yet just how swiftly it's happening. The Internet of Things, the way that digital and data is becoming such a big influence in how businesses, industries, professions are going to change. That's the first part of it. But with it comes huge levels of uncertainty, complexity, paradox, ambiguity, the whole family. And people are being expected to do more with less. People are being bombarded with voice streams, SMS streams, email streams, social media streams, Instagram, whatever it is, and expectations that they turn around quicker and quicker. And we have the whole new march of the millennials and soon to follow them, the centennials, who are a different order of people with different aspirations and different perspectives on the world. They're not like the baby boomers or the X-Gens. So we've got a changing demographic on many, many levels. How leaders are supposed to manage in and through these times is the challenge. And old command and control styles of leadership are not working. They already have outdated in a number of industries and organizations. There's still some stalwarts that are holding on to it in the more traditional sort of industries that stem back to the industrial age, where you had to have command and control industries because people had to be confined in pockets and spaces, and if they stepped out of them, people might get injured in the days of production and machining and what was happening. That's all changing. And we live in a world of white-collar workers, the digital age, where people are your assets go up and down in a lift and go in and out of your front door. How do you manage them? How do you lead them? And very importantly, it's a need for, firstly, self-awareness. Who am I as a leader of self? How do I actually manage and develop and actualize this being that I am before I'm a leader of others and of organizations? And that requires a really reflective, often facilitated journey in which you reflect and look on actually, who am I, where am I, why am I in this space, on this journey? Because at the heart of it all lies a very definite need for purposefulness and accomplishment and a sense of autonomy in the space that we're in and who we are as beings and as people.
So Bryan, if you've got command and control as the one model, what do we call this second model? What's it called?
Your self-aware leader. It's an inclusive coaching style of leadership.
Okay.
It's much more about asking rather than telling. Mm-hmm. You know, it's easy to tell you something. I can tell you to do something or show you the way to do it, and you can go away and do it, and then next thing you'll forget it. If I help you discover how to do it and why it's important to do that and how that links to what's of relevance to you, it's something that's going to be internalized and retained. That's at a very simple sort of
One
level.
of the criticisms around this new, and I'm not anti it, I just want to, I'm just a messenger, around the move from command and control to what you've called self-aware leadership, purposeful leadership, is the fact that there's a huge amount of abdication. In fact, that there's no leadership in some senses if it's done incorrectly. It's, well, I don't want to tell you what to do in case you don't like me. So it's it's devoid of leadership if it's not done well.
Okay.
Are you getting?
I love the question. Yeah. So let's just think for a minute. Firstly, all managers should be leaders. Sadly, they're not. Not all leaders need to be managers. Management is about process, procedure, functions, outputs, etc. Leadership is about character, it's about how you do things, it's about how you show up. Two leaders coming with the same qualifications and same experience sets come into the room very, very differently, and it all depends on where they're coming from in terms of their inner place. And what we've seen, sadly, in business, we've seen it in government, where people are put into positions without having established the worthiness, and the worthiness not in terms of who they are, but in terms of the journey that they've traveled. Self isn't waiting to be discovered. Self's waiting to be created, and we create self through the pursuit of meaningful, progressive, worthwhile personal pursuits and goals. And that's where character gets developed and built, because on that way we end up discovering that some of those steps and part of the journey are things of becoming, not just doing. You have to confront your fears, overcome your self-limiting beliefs, work through the tough stuff. And people as a rule will avoid that, because in the absence of a bigger picture, we do things either to avoid loss or make a gain. And if we're don't have a reason for it, we're not going to do something that's uncomfortable.
We've got a few minutes left now. I just want to maybe step up now. If I'm running an organization in a command and control way, whether I label it that or not, but it's very much a control from the top. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, I want to change. I want to be part of the new decade now, and things that are happening. I want to survive this exponential growth. How do I actually, from a practical point of view, change?
It's a really good question. I think that, and thank goodness we live in an era where we have the facility of really great coaches. Coaching's evolved to a tremendous level. There still are all sorts of different degrees and levels of coaches, but that's one thing. If you could facilitate a journey of reflection yourself, which some people can do and have done, sadly in life, most people make significant changes on the back of an event which is usually tragic. It could be an illness, the loss of a loved one, it could be a rape, a hijacking, a tsunami, a number of things that get you to step back and reflect and pause and say, what am I doing with my life? You know, you've lost a loved one who you haven't spoken to in 3 years, and the last time you did, you had a fight and you never got around to saying sorry, and now they've passed on and you aren't able to tell them that you loved them and that you cared about them and that it really didn't matter that you had that argument. Just an odd example of how we can't afford to go through life as a road trip and just allowing it to lead us through, because success often creates blinkers. You know, successful people have all the stuff around them. They've got all the rewards. They've got all the accolades. They often only check it out when something goes wrong. And we need to be way ahead of the curve on that, because we don't know what's coming. We don't know what the world's bringing. We've got to be way, way, way sharper. And with that self-awareness comes an external consciousness as well that's really important, of what's happening around me. And importantly, this isn't just about take, it's about give. We're in a world today where we've all got a responsibility, right down to global warming, of being responsible human and earthly citizens in living right and living right by each other.
Bryan, that's all we have time for today. I appreciate your insights into why we need to transform into a new order of leadership, which is from this command and control to a more self-reflective, coaching and purposeful leadership, so that we can adapt to this exponential change that is not coming but is here upon us right now.
Indeed.
Well, that's it for our leadership slot for today. Please stay tuned to see what's coming up next on the show.
After 6 months, we then employ these graduates to be accounting trainees, where they provide the back office accounting support for these SMEs.